Hello and good evening and welcome to Normal Islands Live. I'm, of course, Curtis Daly. And I tell you what, it's been a while. It's been a long time since I've hosted. I'm probably out of practice. As you know, due to people on holiday, we have ramped down the shows a little bit. The last couple of weeks has only been one show per week. But don't worry, we're starting to ramp that up again. Callum's going to be back from holiday soon, so we're going to go back to the normal schedule of 3 shows per week. That's going to be returning soon. Joining me tonight is the king, as we call him, Kevin Logan. Kevin, it's been so long since I've heard from you or listened to your voice that I'm actually getting withdrawal symptoms.
Well, look, as a Republican, please don't call me king, but you can, of course, call me Daddy.
I'll stick to king, I think, actually.
Fair enough, yeah.
No, I'll call you Daddy. Maybe, post-watershed. When we get to 9 o'clock, right, that's when Daddy comes out. This really does not sound good. Anyway, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Let's get straight to the show, shall we? Of course, remember to like the stream. And if you want to support our work, then please go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There's a link to our Patreon and another link to a one-off donation. As you know, you can become a YouTube member for 99p. Keep your comments in. Send us your super chats. We're obviously going to be reading them at the end of the show. Let's go on to our first story. A new poll has Reform plummeting to 3rd place. According to Lord Ashcroft polling, Labour are top with 27%, the Tories climb to 2nd place with 23%, and Reform all the way down to 18%. Despite Labour on top, the Greens are holding firm with 15%. Now, of course, one poll is just an outlier. However, it's the trends that matter, with a number of polls having Reform in 2nd place, despite dominating this year. Opinion Research has this: Labour with 27% and Reform not far behind with 25%. Ipsos Mori, they've got this: Labour with 28%, Reform 2nd with 25%, and not much change with the other parties. Now, according to Election Maps UK, in a poll of polls they conducted, Reform are in 2nd place. Labour are ahead with 25.6%, Reform 2nd with 24.3%, the Tories 90.6%, Greens 11.3%, Lib Dems 10.7%, and Restore with 2.9%. And what's interesting is that Labour support in this poll is an 18-month high, Reform with a 19-month low. For the Greens, 11.3% is a 10-month low, and the Lib Dems with a post-general election low. Now, Andy Burnham is still enjoying the Burnham bounce, as he is way ahead in personal party leader ratings. 50% of the public view Burnham favourably, with 31% disliking him, a net 19% positive. That rarely happens. Kemi Badenoch, 14% net negative, -8 for Ed Davey, 24% view Farage favourably, and 65% dislike him, meaning he is -41% with the public. Zach has a -31% rating. Although, interestingly, at the second part of the graphic, the Greens are the most popular party. 33% of the public like them, against 42% dislike. 30% of the public favours Labour, 27% for the Lib Dems, 26% for Reform, and the Tories, the least popular, with 24%. However, Reform are disliked the most by a wide margin. 62% of the public do not approve. The party is seen overall as the most negative, with its leader Farage the most unpopular leader. But up until now, they were consistently polling number one. Politics is strange. Kevin, how significant do you think this polling is? I mean, have Reform thrown away their chances of winning the next election?
I would take this individual poll, especially because it's Ashcroft polling, which is imperfect, shall we say. There's a certain conservative bias. I think they overestimate the conservative vote very regularly. But the point is, it's one poll. So let's not take that particular snapshot in its entirety, right? You look at the poll of polls, which does show that the Reform vote has dropped down significantly over the last sort of 18 months, and Labour have received a big bounce. I think the big story that people should take out of this is not so much that Reform are in second place, which they are definitely now. They're not actually in third. They're in second place overall by a relatively narrow margin to Burnham, is that what the left has been saying for ages, which was ignored under the previous Labour leader and previous Prime Minister, was that the Greens had taken their votes off them. And the fact that a more progressive, at least sort of more progressive, sounding more progressive, Labour leader has come into power has seen a significant bounce in the Labour vote and a precipitant drop-off from the Green Party, because that's where the votes were going to. Stop trying to placate far-rightists who will never, ever, ever vote for you. That is the big message that should be taken out of this from the Labour Party. Whether they will or not, we'll wait and see. But the point is, the Reform Party are definitely dropping in the polls. I think taking on a significant number of former Conservative members of the government was a mistake. A lot of people who saw them as an insurgent, anti-establishment party can't realistically turn around and still think of them that way, because they have Robert Jenrick, the immigration minister, who opened the hated migrant hotels, and people like I've forgotten her bloody name, Patel. That undermines the concept of them being, an anti-establishment party. And after just 30 years of giving them the oxygen of publicity and positive press coverage, finally the press and the establishment have done their job and are actually tackling Farage in the proper way. Firstly, they are denying him the oxygen of publicity that he requires. He did this whole by-election stunt because he wanted the publicity, and the establishment went, no, we're not playing your game. We're not going to run. Even the Restore Party didn't want to run against him, and so essentially he has been in the wilderness, completely the people have not seen him or heard from him really in a long time, and he's been arguing with a bin in Essex. That's not where he needs to be. He needs, like Trump, to have the oxygen of publicity. He needs to be the story. And you can tell he's not the story because most people probably aren't aware that both he and Zia Yusuf held a press conference today about how they're going to keep prisoners in jail, and they've got this El Salvador plan where they're going to send criminals to El Salvador or something, and no one watched it and no one cared. It made absolutely no impact. They've become irrelevant in that respect. So finally, they've starved him of the oxygen of publicity. But what publicity they have given him has actually attacked in ways that can be effective. Because you can't just call him a racist. He is a racist. It's obvious he's a racist. His people don't care. In fact, actually, they do care. It's a plus for them because they are largely also racists, or at least okay with racists and racism. What you actually have to attack him on is the fact that he's taking millions of pounds of dodgy money from oligarchs. Because again, you can't plausibly sell yourself as anti-establishment when you are literally as corrupt as the establishment and you've got the establishment in your party. So ultimately, that's what you're going to see now is the precipitant decline, I think, of the Reform Party. I don't think it's necessarily the case that they've completely sold their opportunity to become the next government, but I think it's unlikely now, or basically impossible, that they'll get a majority and would have to form some sort of coalition government. And also, I think Farage is hole below the waterline, and he probably has to go to allow that to happen.
I mean, I'm just looking at, I just searched up when the last time Reform got 30% in the poll. And it was More in Common was on the 30th of March. They were on 30%, the Conservatives were on 21%, Labour on 19%. Opinion, because that's one of the polls we've cited, the last time Reform were on 30% was February. And then Ipsos, again, another poll that we've cited in this, was January. So it's been around 6 months, 4 to 6 months, maybe
Yeah,
longer now,
yeah,
since they've actually reached 30%. Where do you, and that's this predates all the £5 million bung stuff, right?
yeah.
It has to be more than just the Conservative or ex-Conservative MP swinging over, though. There must have been, I mean, in your view, there must have been other reasons, right? Or
I mean, yeah, Nigel Farage has tried in some ways to soften his messaging. You wouldn't necessarily know it from the outside, but right wingers do look for this sort of thing. He has softened his message to a certain extent. He's also, bizarrely, he rolled back some of the more progressive
yeah,
sounding
yeah.
things. So former Labour voters who wanted tougher rules on immigration, but also kind of wanted government spending. Well, he's rolled back on all of those government spending plans. Even the lies he was telling to his voters about how he was going to invest in their local communities have gone away. And so the ex-Labour voter who would hold their nose and vote for reform goes away. Also, you've seen a significant bounce for the Labour Party, which again, even though the Reform Party have slipped down a little bit, the reason that Labour are ahead of them is because of that increase, right? Which again comes from again there's an almost exact mirroring of the drop in Green Party vote and the rise in the Labour Party vote, because progressives have decided, okay, maybe this guy's worth a shot. He's sounding more progressive. He's coming up with some economically more progressive sounding things. Maybe we'll give him a shot. And literally anyone's better than the previous bloke, whatever his name was. Can anyone remember?
Okay, so obviously you're saying here there's a mirror image of the Greens dropping, Labour going up, right? Obviously, we all
Yeah.
did say if Labour moved to the left or try and court left-wing voters, I mean, at least they should try to do that. And obviously, it's for now been successful.
Yeah.
I question the long-term project of this, especially on Gaza, right? Because the biggest reason why people left Labour to the Greens was Gaza. So I think that's going to be a problem for them.
Yeah.
But under Keir Starmer, and I know they were outliers, but some polls had the Greens on 18%, 21%. Again, they were more closely, I think, to 15, 16%, maybe 15%. Do you think now with Burnham that the Green Party's strategy has changed? And actually, it's now that their role is to push Labour to the left instead of outright replacing them, as the plan was when Keir Starmer was PM, because that was what they were saying, right? We're here to replace Labour, and polling was showing that that could happen.
Yeah.
Now Burnham's Prime Minister, polling shows that can't happen. Do you think the Greens have to maybe temper their expectations a little bit, or do you think they should be just as, I don't know, bold and confident as before?
I think they need to be more bold. I know that might sound a slightly strange thing, given that they, like you say, they're at a 10-month low in terms of their share vote, but the popular vote share. But you need to be more bold, because essentially, I don't see it as an either-or situation. You do have to try and pull them to the left as far as you can, because regardless of if anything ever happens, whether he ever becomes an MP, whether the Green Party ever become a major parliamentary force, Zach Polanski has had a positive net impact on British politics. The reason that Andy Burnham is Prime Minister is because of Zach Polanski. The reason that the Labour Party are coming out and sounding vaguely like a Labour Party should, in terms of like cost of living crisis, and even on things like Gaza, where although the policy hasn't really changed, at least the messaging has changed. At least he's prepared to be a little critical, which is a sea change from the absolute steadfast iron support of the previous government. That positive impact is huge, potentially. It could vastly change the fortunes of working class people in this country. But you have to be there to drag them as far to the left as you can get them to go towards your position, because that's better than nothing. It's better than the previous situation we had. And ultimately, if they don't go far enough and we end up in the same situation where progressives become disillusioned by this Labour government, which seems likely given that I think they're not going as far as they should, and he's just a Blairite who eventually will be sucked in by the blob at Westminster and become another essentially Tory, then that disillusioned vote will come back to the Green Party, and they can actually overtake the Labour Party, because, you know, once bitten, twice shy type deal. I think you have to essentially have it as a strategy in the first place to drag them to the left, and if they don't do so, to take over from them.
Yeah, I entirely agree with that, and I do think that Burnham wouldn't be where he was without Zach Polanski. I think that's just true.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Without a leftist, without a left to the left of the Labour Party threat to the Labour Party's vote, Keir Starmer would still be Prime Minister.
People
It
didn't
would
really
still
have
be...
anywhere to go, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the one argument they had was, well, where else do you have to go? It's either us or Farage. Well, now it's not. Now there is a credible alternative. The Labour Party, for the first time in 50 years, have a genuine, credible threat to their left on a national level. They have had in terms of Wales and Scotland with the SNP and Plaid Cymru, but in terms of the national picture across the whole of the country, they have the Green Party there to genuinely hold their feet to the fire. So for the first time in 50 years, they're having to actually talk to left-wing voters for the first time in generations. And we're seeing the net positive impact of that, and of course, a change of leadership on that basis.
there's been reports that the Greens are looking like they're going to overtake the Labour Party in terms of membership. But I actually would be interested to see what the Green Party's membership numbers are now, whether it's fallen. Because whether some people maybe gone back to the Labour Party because they feel, maybe I can try and change things under Burnham. But
I don't necessarily think that would have happened in huge numbers, and I'd be very surprised actually if the Green Party hadn't got close to, if not actually overtaking the Labour Party, because of course the Labour Party don't publish their numbers anymore. So disastrous was the drop off in membership.
Again, that's reports are saying they're approaching it. They probably already have. I mean, it's plausible to say that Labour could be under 200,000.
Yeah, genuinely, because they're so embarrassed by their pathetic showing that they don't publish their numbers anymore, which should be illegal as far as I'm concerned. You should know the number. You don't have to know the exact people, of course. Privacy is a matter, but in terms of the overall number, those as a matter of law should be made public, I think.
Okay, let's go on to our second story. We've got a lot of Hitler bashing coming up. Another day and another unhinged take from Elon Musk. This time, he claims that Adolf Hitler is a left-wing socialist. An account named Alice Smith initially tweeted this. Hitler was a leftist, and here you have is a list of apparent reasons why. Identity politics, collectivism, statism, command economy, censorship, social engineering, militant activism, gun control, rule by laws, politicization of academia, judiciary, and civil service. I mean, there's so much wrong with that list. It's hard to start with it. I mean, it's not accurately describing the Nazis, and then they're attributing these statements as somehow left wing. A good third of that list has been heavily deployed by the right wing. I mean, identity politics. That is literally the entire right wing and far right political project movement. Okay. Do you ever hear them talk about economics? No, it's religion, it's culture, it's race. I mean, the Nazis' entire project was ethnic cleansing. You couldn't get more identity politics than that. Social engineering, that's an interesting one, because conservatives want people to act in their image, in their religion, making same-sex marriage illegal, for example. Trying to make the lives of trans people impossible. Conservatives love big government when it comes to individual liberty. That is social engineering. And the politicization of academia, judiciary, and civil service, I mean, that has to be a joke, right? I mean, conservatives don't stop banging on about the civil service, right? They've weaponized the judicial system. Donald Trump should literally be in prison, okay? And if you had a functioning court system in America and people actually cared about the law, he will be behind bars. Now, academia, again, these people constantly push the idea that education has been captured by the left. And, the left want to censor history. Well, think about it in the context of the UK. Conservatives don't want people being taught by the British Empire. I mean, Kevin Baddock always says, we need to be teaching the positive history of Britain, not downplaying it. No, we should just be teaching the truth, whether it's good or bad. Anyway, Elon Musk, quote, tweeted it and said, Hitler was a left-wing socialist. Now, there's been a fairly long history of people on the right trying to claim that the Nazis were socialists. Their evidence is that they called themselves National Socialists, which means North Korea is a democracy, right? In reality, fascism is the direct opposite of communism, a left-wing ideology. In fact, many fascist movements target communism and communists. I mean, the first people targeted under the Nazi regime, socialists, trade unionists, communists, and even social democrats. Before 1933, the Nazis were very unpopular with workers who typically supported communists or the Social Democratic Party. Therefore, the Nazis took on a lot of rhetoric of the socialists to win political power. It doesn't mean they are socialist or in any way left wing. That's just pure far right slop. But Musk accidentally admitted that he himself is a Nazi. Back in 2018, Musk claimed he was a socialist. By the way, I'm actually a socialist, not the kind that shifts resources from most productive to least productive, pretending to be good while actually causing harm. True socialism seeks greatest good for all. I mean, a socialist wouldn't say that. Oh, so these socialists today want to take resources from the productive to the unproductive. That is such an anti-socialist thing to say. Okay, Musk certainly isn't a socialist. He's the world's first trillionaire. All right, he's where he is because of capitalism, so he's not a socialist. However, I mean, he is a Nazi. Kevin, do you think this slop works? I mean, will people fall for the idea that the Nazis were left-wing socialists?
No, I don't think they will. And people really oughtn't take Elon Musk's view on political philosophy very seriously, considering he genuinely made the argument that Karl Marx was a capitalist because he wrote a book called Capital. I'm not making that up. That's a thing that he suggested. He's an idiot. If anything shows you that capitalism doesn't reward the best amongst us, but just rewards evil idiots, Elon Musk is the ground zero for that argument. Yeah, the usual argument that gets made here is that they have the word socialist in National Socialism. Firstly, one of the first groups within the Nazi movement they targeted were the what were called Strasserite socialists, the people who actually believed in the socialism of National Socialism. They were murdered, all of them, pretty early on. So the idea that Hitler or Hitlerism, Nazism, was socialist is a little ridiculous. Just because it has the word in it, lads. All I'll say is, in that instance, right? Surely that urinal cake has the word cake in it, so tuck in, I guess. Or on the basis of Elon Musk saying that the word capital in a book title means that he was that Karl Marx was a capitalist. Presumably, therefore, Elon Musk is going to write a book called Divorced Stupid Twat, I imagine. I don't know. But in terms of the actual arguments that were made in the original tweet, I think it's worth taking on those point by point because they're all massively fucking wrong. Firstly, the person says idpol, so identity politics, right? That's not a uniquely leftist thing at all. Identitarianism, in its various forms, has existed on the left, right, and centre for a very long time. As indeed Elon Musk would know, because Elon Musk is a massive racist. As indeed all right-wing people are to some degree or another. They just are. That's part of their thing. Modern Western conservatism is just white grievance culture. That's all it is. You can see it in the two-tier policing shit that they constantly keep going on about. They're just white grievance mongers. That's all. So in that case, every conservative is a socialist, apparently. Collectivism is just a stupid buzzword, really. They don't really ever define what that means, but surely if anything's collectivist, it would be the massive army that right-wingers love to jerk off over, or indeed nation-states, where you are collectively one peoples within a set of borders drawn on a map. But apparently that's fine and not collectivism because reasons. Statism, another sort of pointless, stupid buzzword. But for rightists in America who love Trump, a man who has begun to centralise the power of the American government into the hands of the presidency in a ridiculously unconstitutional way, is a bit ironic. Command economy. You can only realistically describe the Nazi state as a command economy during the total war production years of 1943 to 1945, which means for only 2 of the 12 years they were in power. Other than that, they were pretty capitalist. Literally, the word privatization, was invented in Nazi Germany to describe the way in which they sold off both public assets and indeed seized assets of people they murdered, of course, selling off to organisations and people of Aryan descent, obviously, because, racists, but private enterprise. That was it. They were privatisationists. Not at all command economyists, until they absolutely had to because total war, which is a thing that governments in wartime have done across all states. Would they also describe both the North and South during the American Civil War as command economy socialists? Because they did total war economy too. Just saying. Censorship, ridiculous. Literally the most ridiculous one of the lot, I think, because every single society that has ever existed has had censorship to one degree or another. You have the Federal Bureau of Censorship in the United States of America. That's a thing. Or the Federal Commission, I should say, for censorship in America. Is America socialist? Maybe. These people are crazy. Who fucking knows? Social engineering. America's very existence is a prime case of social engineering. You took people from 50 different nations across the world and slammed them into one country and tried to make a nationality out of it. It's an experiment in liberal capitalist democracy on a continent that had never seen anything like it before, including lots of genocides. Don't talk to me about how social engineering is a socialist concept, unless you think the founding fathers were also socialists, which I'm guessing you wouldn't claim. Militant activism, more meaningless buzzwords. Every single country that's ever existed has had people who believe in things and advocate for them strongly. So, just a meaningless nothing phrase. Gun control. Only in America is gun control politicised in this way. Conservative governments across all the rest of the world have enacted gun control to various degrees, and they don't have the school shootings that America has constantly. But that's just ignored by these people. And what's also ignored is the fact that there are gun laws in America all over the place. Is America also socialist? Maybe they would claim that because they're lying bastards. I don't know. Rule by law is a very strange one. Aren't conservatives, at least in theory, supposed to be the people who support the rule of law? Also, Hitler didn't live by law. Hitler lived by decree. He just made shit up as he went along. He had the Enabling Act for virtually the entirety of his premiership. He didn't live by law. What the fuck are you talking about? The politicisation of academia, judiciary and civil service is where we reach the every accusation is a confession part of the proceedings. Because in America, you've had groups like the Heritage Foundation, the Council for National Policy, Project 2025, the Federalist Society, we could go on, who have all explicitly had the goal of politicising those exact same institutions for decades and have largely succeeded in doing so. And yet you want to claim that that process is socialist. Honestly, guys, the reckoning of these people would mean that virtually every society that's ever existed is socialist, including modern and old America. Or they're just full of shit.
I mean, they could have come up with better examples, at least to try and sort of feign some kind of faux argument.
Well, there's no argument. Basically,
okay. There's no argument, but the specific, like, the rule of law one. It's funny to me because it's like, okay, if you're trying to convince people that Hitler was a socialist, right? Why would you use rule of law? Because most people go, rule of law sounds quite good, actually. I quite like having certain laws. I don't know who you're trying to convince with that one. But yeah, every state has fucking rule of law. And it's the right-wingers who really, really kind of ripped it from beneath it. I mean, of course, they don't believe in democracy. They believe in mob rule. That's what fascism is. You look at Trump again and you look at Hitler.
Yeah, there are similarities, and of course, I think we would be remiss to not notice that the Lebensraum concept and the concept of genociding those who are inferior and unworthy literally came from the Manifest Destiny policy of American governments, of all of the political parties who engaged in that during the 19th and 20th centuries. So America has a big role to play in all of that, but ultimately, what it comes down to is conservatives, especially in America, are so close to Hitlerite policy and politics that they have to pretend that actually that's left-wing and had nothing to do with us, even though they believe many of the same things that Hitler did.
But let's talk about the UK context. Of course, it's not as crazy as that over here, but you are hearing certain people... I mean, I hear Adam Brooks all the time call left-wing fascists. And, you know, the left are the new fascists. And I feel like there is... a move from the right in the UK to try and muddy labels, muddy ideology, and kind of do something similar, which is that, well, actually the left are the violent fascists.
Well, this has always been the case. They've always done this. The word libertarian once meant anti-state anti-capitalists, and now it means like fucking Chicago boys, ultra free market nonsense. Also, like there's. I don't want to get into too much of a historical or historiographical rant here, but this person is clearly not a great understander of history, or the fact
clearly
that,
not.
you know, the concept that the past is a foreign country, right? That it's a completely different thing. The idea of the command economy. Virtually every pre-1980 government around the world, including the American government, would be command economy by today's standards, because the Thatcherite, Reaganite, neoliberal monstrosity, which has torn through the institutions of the world, has meant that the laissez-faire capitalism of the 19th century has basically come back, but on a sort of worldwide global communications level, you know. That's why you've got like a trillionaire, like literally the Gilded Age, the Great Gatsby of today could only the past they could only have dreamt of the kind of obscene wealth that they now have. The wealth disparity today dwarfs that of any time in human history. And so if you just go back to 1980 and before, every single government would be command economy. But this person doesn't fucking understand that, because they're not trying to make a good faith argument. They're just trying to smear somebody who has been used as an attack against their side for years, because they are on their side.
I find the inclusion of command economy quite interesting as well, because there is so much command economy, I think, today when it comes to corporations. We always hear from the right wing that capitalism's great because it's about markets and competition. The biggest proponents of a command economy are big corporates, because they want to control the entire market. They don't want competition. Right? They're not promoting that someone else makes a better product. No, they want to buy out these companies. So in fact, we've created more of a command economy because there's no democratic oversight over these corporations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's nothing the capitalist hates more than a free market. Once they've won, they want to be able to choose to be the winners forever. Elon Musk has received billions from the US taxpayer. He's the biggest welfare queen in history. Or Jeremy Clarkson saying that welfare recipients should say thank you to the taxpayer. Well, I'm waiting for my fucking thank you, Jeremy. You've received £250,000 of government subsidy for your farm. I'll accept a text as thanks if you want to thank me as a taxpayer, you fucking arsehole.
I tell you what, you going through that list was absolutely incredible. You debunked them line by line. I loved it. But let's go on to our third and final story. But before we move on, you know what I'm going to say? It's 2026, and we want this year to be big for Turn Left. We want to be far more ambitious than last year and really put us on the map. We would like 2026 to be the year where we can have a studio and for our contributors to be paid for the work we do. Your support over the years has been amazing, and we're ready to take this to the next level. We rely on small donations, so if you want to be part of a media organisation that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. And as you've seen, we have made certain upgrades, as in this studio as well. On Fridays, you get to see the whole thing. So we're always improving. We're always upgrading. Final story. Right-wingers will never stop moaning. And this time, it's Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is what she said in response to Andy Burnham announcing that the government will clamp down on fake discounts, hidden charges, and subscription traps. Burnham brings forward ban on subscription traps to ease cost of living. This is embarrassing now. A brand new Prime Minister who says he's got a plan to deliver change, growth, and tackle the cost of living, and all he's offered so far is petty tinkering. Total cringe. I mean, I don't think Hartley-Brewer actually really cares about tackling the cost of living, so ironic to say that. So what specifically is Andy Burnham calling for? Subscriptions will be easier to cancel, and companies will be compelled to make it clear when contracts auto-renew at a higher price, Andy Burnham has announced. The Prime Minister is also planning to outlaw shops from falsely claiming products previously retailed at much higher prices to advertise supposed deals, which he said tricks shoppers into thinking they are getting better value on purchases. Now, despite those moaning at Burnham, the policy to make it easier to cancel a subscription was actually drafted under Starmer. A crackdown on subscription traps could save the average person nearly £170 a year, according to the Department for Business and Trade. Consumers will no longer have to make endless phone calls to cancel a subscription, and they will be given a 14-day calling off period after the end of a trial period or when an annual subscription automatically renews. The charges are expected to come into force in spring 2027. The laws will enable people to cancel subscriptions with the click of a button, the DBT said. Companies will be forced to give clear information upfront to prevent consumers from being silently rolled onto expensive contracts. Burnham is set to bring in these changes 3 months earlier than planned. But it's not just Julie Hartley-Brewer, but you can count on Zia Youssef moaning about it and changing the conversation straight back to immigrants and refugees. You know what's more annoying than hard to cancel subscriptions, Andy? A Prime Minister allowing the invasion of our country to continue day after day. A Prime Minister allowing the killers of a young police officer to walk freely. A Prime Minister who was out of his depth. I think you know how far this country has fallen when a prominent politician of colour is describing immigration as an invasion. Now, look, the reason why I wanted to talk about these policies is that small but substantive policies, I think, are very good. I mean, millions of people are sick of hidden charges and trapping people in subscriptions. I mean, I get furious when I just want to speak to someone on the phone and you're fobbed off and you find yourself, going round in circles. I mean, so many companies don't let you speak to someone. It's all just endless AI chats and FAQs. I think making it easier to cancel subscriptions is a really good policy. Now, a political project requires radical long-term change and everyday changes. And I don't think Burnham will do the radical change, but small policies such as this, I think, are good. Kevin, do you think that Hartley-Brewer is right? That, it's tinkering around the edges and Burnham is distracting people with small and less important policies?
She's right in one respect. It is sort of tinkering, this particular policy. I don't think he's doing it to distract, though. I think this is actually sort of his game plan of making a kind of dent in the problem by 1,000 small cuts, rather than just, and when I say cut, I don't mean cut to spending. I mean like the idea of a kind of drip, drip, drip effect. That he doesn't necessarily have the political capital to be able to make massive changes now. He would have to probably go to the electorate and get a general election kind of mandate to be able to really do that. But he can certainly make some tinkering at the edges changes and improve the situation to the point where the Labour Party could go into the next election with a sensible chance of being able to form some kind of government, maybe a coalition or something like that. But to say that he's distracting rather than actually just governing for the sake of governing, or governing in a way that people want him to, that his voters want him to, is ridiculous. Also, Julia, you should be really careful about what you wish for here. When you say he's tinkering at the edges, do you think he should go further with his economic progressive policies? What do you think he should do here? Enact full socialism? Maybe? Or are you just sort of moaning for the sake of moaning, which is basically what she does for a living, stealing a living? Anyway, as to Zia Youssef, it's Pick Me Youssef is a really interesting one. Why do we keep hearing this man's opinion as if it's relevant to anything, when literally he could get out of bed and stub his toe and he would blame it on migrants somehow? I don't care what he has to say. He's not even an elected official. At least with Richard Tice well, actually, I was about to say Farage, but he's not an MP at the moment. But he probably will be very soon again, unless Binface pulls off the most stunning by-election victory in history, which would be funny. At least they're MPs, and so their opinion sort of matters. Zia Youssef is nobody. He's such a nobody that they wouldn't even let him stand in a by-election. Like, he's just irrelevant to it. But it just goes to show you, there is no placating of right-wing anti-immigrant bullshit. unless the government's policy is to literally mince migrants and feed their mush to dogs, they will never ever be happy. They want to enact violence upon people. They hate brown people and they want you to enact violence upon them. So why do these centrist twats keep trying to placate them? Why do what Keir Starmer and Burnham and Shabana Mahmood and previous Home Secretaries, why do they constantly keep trying to placate them? You can't. Unless you totally 100% agree with them, they'll never accept you. The racists will never accept you. So stop trying. Have a sensible immigration policy where you don't just go down to the White Cliffs of Dover and dick swing about it. Actually put together safe routes for people. That's how you stop the boats, by allowing them safe routes to get here. It's ridiculous to me. But in terms of Andy Burnham's policies, I think they'll have a positive impact. I think you'll see a at least medium term continuation of the Burnham bounce. I don't think they're ever going to get to 30% unless he goes much more radical, which I don't think he will. But I think you'll see a kind of tapering off of the rise, but a steady holding of that position of them being in first place for quite some time, unless he does the radical thing, because eventually people will get sick of that as well. Because we have to wait and see what his legislative agenda is going to be when they return in September. But so far, the mood music on that isn't fantastic. And ultimately, the same passive bullshit governance will lead to the same indifference or hatred from the British people. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But ultimately, this is just right-wing whinging, as always.
I think the thing with Yusuf, though, it's like boring. Because...
yeah.
Like, he's saying, why aren't you stopping the boats and stopping the invasion? The fact that people even say invasion is absolutely fucking insane, right? You don't know what an invasion is, clearly, right? No. High levels of immigration is not an invasion.
It's ironic, because their policy to stop the invasion is to actually invade France.
Right,
to put
exactly.
British naval personnel into French waters and French land to put migrants back, and thinking that the French people will just be totally fine with that.
Exactly. But the point is, it's like, you do realise that political parties and governments have to speak about all things, because you notice how anything that's announced, people from Reform say, yeah, but what about immigration? Or, I've noticed he hasn't said anything about the boats. I was like, yeah, you do realise, though, that you have to talk about everything. Immigration, climate change, domestic policy. But Reform have nothing to say on anything else, which is why they keep going back to that, because that's their comfort zone.
That's the only thing they want to talk about. Because that's the only thing they care about, because they're idiots. I'm sorry, if you're a Reform voter, you're an idiot. You might not be a racist, although many of them are, but you are at least an idiot, be it a useful one or an active one. It doesn't really matter to me. You have been suckered into thinking that the small boats are the problem rather than the billionaires who are fucking you. That's the sort of problem, that's the dynamic we have here. But yeah, like, I don't know what more he could do. He kept the Panopticon Pam as the Home Secretary. What more do they fucking want from him? Literally, unless you can agree to kill migrants, to put up like spikes on the White Cliffs of Dover to impale the small boats, they're never going to be okay with you. So stop trying. They're not going to vote for you. They didn't vote for fucking Prickface, Sir Prickface. They're not going to vote for you either, Northern Prickface. So just disregard them. They're not your voters. They are your citizens. You do have to rule in their behalf, but they're not your voters. Stop trying to win them over.
I also think these sorts of policies, I don't think they're necessarily tinker around the edges. I don't think they're transformative, of course, but I think that it does, these sorts of policies directly address the cost of living in some kind of way. Because what you would hear from like a neoliberal, and I'm not saying that Andy Burnham is completely rejecting neoliberalism, but Starmer, like full-blown neoliberal, would look at policies that try not to like intervene, I don't think. Whereas like saying that companies have to change the rules on like, you know, trapping your subscriptions, I think that's quite substantial. Like, I can imagine that will be a policy on like a Mamdani manifesto. Like those sort of policies, I'm like, I could absolutely hear Mamdani doing that.
Yeah, it's essentially just social democratic boilerplate stuff
Yeah.
that wasn't seen as particularly radical even 20 years ago. You've got to bear in mind, like, Tony Blair was quite a right-wing prime minister, and yet they actually did some relatively transformative things in terms of Sure Start, in terms of tax credits and pensioner tax credits and things like that, that did really positively impact the lives of the most poor in our society. And the Labour Party has even given up on even that kind of thing. And so now we have I think will be impactful but not transformative. I think is the way to describe these policies. They will make people's lives better, so that's good, and will win support on that basis, because people have become like, this is a horrible example, but they're like abused animals. They're not looking for the best thing in the world, they're just looking not to hurt anymore. They just want someone to not continue to beat them. And so we just want a government that kind of governs on our behalf and aren't totally corrupt, evil pieces of shit. Is that too much to ask? And so the fact that he's giving them that, not transformative, not brilliant, not really rousing and inspiring, but just all right. Well, that's enough. That's enough. That could lead to a landslide at some point if he continues to do that for the rest of his term.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Again, like, as a socialist, I'm sort of coming at this from the left, but I think that what Burnham is really good at is these sorts of things. I thought his first week was a very successful premiership. Talking about bringing back down the cap, for example, cutting energy bills, whatever. Again,
getting rid of rough sleeping, I thought was a fantastic thing for him to say.
That's a throwback to Jeremy bloody Corbyn, right? And
no,
again,
we already talked about Hitler. We know about
we don't do these two again. But what I mean is, like, these are really important policies. In fact, I don't think you could even build a successful political project, even a socialist one, without doing these kinds of things. Because I think sometimes, say we're going to have a break from neoliberalism. What the fuck does that mean to your average person? I actually think sometimes leftists and our big political ideas is so alienating. It's not saying we don't do them, but sometimes we're saying we need to do this, this, even stuff like nationalisation, which people support. These are big policies, but actually, I do think everyday domestic policies, which are easily communicated, is really important. And that's something Keir Starmer did not do. In fact, when it came to some policies, which people could say they weren't bad policies, they were never easy to grasp and they weren't communicated very well. So I actually think, in order for a political project to be really successful, I want to hear more stuff like this every single day, just slowly dripping it out, because people can be like, oh, immediately I'm hearing something that's happening right now. Not as in, like, I'm going to, fix the housing crisis. I'm going to, redistribute wealth. All amazing things. But, like, people would be, one, skeptical of you doing it, and two, it's going to be years maybe before that. I think people would really respond to, oh my God, like, next week, I actually might save £100 because he's just done that easy policy. Why haven't he done that before? I think that's actually really tangible, really successful for people.
Well, exactly. Technocratic rule is sort of, by its nature, Byzantine. You can't really understand it. It's not meant to be understood. It's done by lawyers in legalese. Now, it can be effective in terms of steering the state of the ship of state and all the rest of it, but people don't get it. People don't get it at all because it's not meant to be gotten. Whereas, like you say, the successful campaigning strategy of people like Mamdani is to say, don't talk about reappropriation of transportation funds. Talk about, I'm going to fix potholes.
Yeah.
Because people see that, they understand it, they know what you're going to try and do. Now, in the courthouse or in the Senate, in the Congress, in the Parliament, whatever, you have to then talk about reappropriation and all of that shite, right? But to the people, put out a TikTok saying, I am going to make your life better and here is how, is perfect. That's why the ridiculousness of these old media twats going on about, oh, he's just doing TikToks. But that's how people get their fucking news.
It means communication.
He's cutting out you. That's why they're annoyed. He's cutting them out as the middleman.
Yeah.
There is no middleman between his message and the people seeing the message anymore. That's what really scares them. That's what's always scared them about the internet, and what they've tried to clamp down on it in every way. Ban TikTok, ban this, ban that, put age restrictions, everything, because they realise that unfiltered, people like me and you can just come out and say, fuck capitalism. And that is scary for them, because they're not scared of the poor. They're scared of people who start fucking thinking. So anyone who can make them think is an enemy to them.
I think when you mentioned about potholes as well, I think this is really important. That sometimes, because when you hear, the only time you ever hear about potholes is during a local election, right?
Yeah.
And bins and stuff. I actually think something which would be really successful is if governments, like national governments, started doing local policy, communicating that. Imagine if Andy Burnham next week said, "I'm going to announce the end of potholes."
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a national campaign and we're going to fix potholes across the entire country. That man's going to get fucking 650 seats, right? And you might think, oh, potholes aren't a big deal, which they are for people. But
they are, yeah.
It's like a local issue, but you've transformed it into a national one. Imagine if you talk about bins.
Yeah,
I think prime ministers talk about bins would be amazing,
Yeah, it's an intangible. Politicians want something big and bold that's going to be like flashy, that will make a headline, and that's not ultimately what wins elections. It's what do people see on their doorstep. It's bread and butter issues, and the kind of the semblance of decay in the country is summed up by the fact that some of our roads look like third world countries.
Yeah,
our infrastructure is pathetic. Embarrassing for a modern first world nation, supposedly. You can't. There are parts of Birmingham's road network that I don't want to go on because I also don't want the Jesus Christ, the VAT the problems with having to go to get that fixed. The people's bread and butter issues need to be tackled. If, like you say, you're the national government, you could take that power in hand. Now, he did say he wanted to give more power to local governments, so it'd be a bit weird. But maybe if he packaged it up with, here are some more powers, but I'm taking potholes back. And I'm taking the funding for potholes back. You can fuck off, right? And then he sorts potholes out. If he became the pothole fixer, the pothole king, like you say, landslide. He'd go
down in history, and that's something. And like, because I don't buy the argument, which is that, well, he needs to get a mandate. So anything that he breaks on the 2024 manifesto, he needs to put in a new manifesto. Political pundits love that shit, right?
Yeah.
But your average person doesn't want another election. Your average person wants fucking solutions. And why they're becoming so frustrated and why they're going towards more of the left or the right is because they feel like, actually, like, our politicians aren't even doing technocratic politics, right? Yeah. Forget populism. They're not even just doing the basic, like, running a government. And I think potholes and bins are part of that.
One thing I'd love him to do, I'm not sure it'll win many votes, which is why, of course, it's never happened, even under Labour governments, is that it was in the manifesto, get rid of the House of Lords. Keir Starmer won an election saying he was going to scrap the House of Lords. You can do it. Go and do it. It was in the manifesto. The Lords can't fucking reject it. You can use the Parliament Act. It would get through a court. It was in the fucking manifesto of a government that won a landslide. Fucking do it. Instantly, Conservative power is sliced in half.
It's such an easy win as well. Like, you could just do it. But, that's something I actually don't think Burnham would do, because I think there's too much political lobbying for him.
He's a fucking playwright. He's a playwright. And again, constitutional change sounds nice, but wins basically 0 votes, because it's like 20th on the priority list of every person.
No, but I do think
I wanted to get rid of the House of Lords, and it's not in my top 10.
I could see that, but I could see that getting a really good headline, and at least people going, do you know what? We wanted change in the Starmer. Didn't happen. Burnham's come in, and that's happened as well.
Yes, and no.
I think
the thing is, the Conservative press would fucking savage him. This is another nail in the coffin of traditional Britain. That's the reason that people don't want to do it. It kicks up so much fuss for so little political gain that even governments that really want to do it just end up going, oh, it's path of least resistance, let's just stack it with our mates.
Yeah, that's true.
And you end up with 6,000 fucking members of the House of Lords. Ridiculous.
Okay, I think it's time to bring in our producer, and let's go to your comments. Joining us tonight, Ben McLean. Ben, how are you? I wonder if you actually added to the scene. I bet you're not. Okay, 2 seconds.
Okay, now the main show's over. I'm putting my fucking fan on. I'm sweating my balls.
Ben, how are you?
Yes, I'm good. Bit jealous of Kevin having a fan, to be honest, but
yeah,
hey-ho.
Hot under the lights as well. I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then background lights all on me, and it's fucking boiling.
Yeah, some of us sweat for this. Kevin.
I'm sweating spinal fluid for this.
Okay, so let's go through some of the super chats and stuff. First of all, we've got Michael, who gave us a £2 super chat and said, "Extra love to Beagle, glad to see him back on turn left." The first comment. Oh my god!
I wonder if you're
Absolute
gonna.
abuse.
Are we gonna see a tear in your eye?
Oh.
Me? I've got no moisture left in my body. It's all sweat.
And Michael also gifted a turn left membership, so thank you very much, Michael. And we also have
He's got 88 in his name. He's a Nazi. Just saying.
great name with great name of the person who gifted a membership here, Labour Friends of Genocide. Great.
Yeah,
Love
they
that
gifted.
username.
Great name, Drew.
They gifted me a membership as well. So thank you.
Double watching.
LFG. Love it.
Let's go.
I had to bring this one up.
Oh.
Caress.
You got no fans.
Anyway, and then Rachel has also said sewer socialism, as in what you guys were talking about, fixing infrastructure problems at scale is the way.
Do you know? They really need to work on the name, because before I knew what sewer socialism was, I was like, this sounds like an insult. I was like, this is a terrible name, but like the project.
What they need to call it is
bang on.
sexy, awesome, big chungus as fuck socialism. That's what you need to call it.
Or pothole socialism.
Massive cock socialism.
Whole socialism. Do you know what? I was in the south of Spain fairly recently. I think
Bougie bastard. Go on.
it was
Not
good,
like you told us backstage, is it, Ben?
Yeah, I did also tell you backstage, but what I'm going to bring up is that when you're in Spain, it's really interesting going from Spain to Gibraltar, because in Spain, they properly fund and properly keep their roads, they're properly washed, they're properly maintained. And then as soon as you cross over into a British territory, you're like, oh, the roads here are shit. They're
It's like going back to England.
Literally. It's the contrast is so heavy, you really notice it.
Well, that's the Brexit we voted for. All right?
True.
Holla to Becca, who's in Spain.
Oh, yeah. We voted for Brexit. Let's push Gibraltar away from mainland Europe with a big.
It'll crash into Africa, and then we'll have Quetta Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Part 2. Let's go. Okay. That was a weird episode. Another Michael. Michael Askew says, I really hope that and this is hope that Binface might pull through.
No,
but those Clactonites seem to be lacking awareness about Farage.
I did see one of the nicest cope posts I've seen in a long time. Was a Reform supporter going on about how Farage is expected to get 70%. That's up 23% or whatever on the last election. It's a massive endorsement of Nigel Farage. Is there any context there? Maybe all the other parties not
there
standing?
There is some context.
Your only opponent being a man with a fucking bin on his head?
Which do you know what's very funny is that Count Binface might get more votes, right, than if other parties were to stand. Not combined, but like I think second place is the Conservatives, am I right? And polling show there's like less than 20%. So Count Binface could get more votes than what a Tory would get.
This might be the first and only time he ever gets his deposit back.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is a shame, really, because actually some of his policies are actually quite sensible. The hand dryer in the Crown and Treaty pub is in a ridiculous place.
It is. Have
you seen it?
Yeah, basically.
I've not actually been there, so I can't comment.
Well, I haven't been there, but I've seen pictures of it. And literally, in order to dry your hands, you have to essentially put your back to a pissing man behind you. It's like next to the urinal, so you have to sort of wedge yourself in between a man pissing and the wall. It's very silly. It's very. You know what? It's not a national issue, but it's bread and butter issues.
It's bread and butter issues.
Sewer socialism, hand dryer socialism.
I think Burnham should take that policy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would be quite funny if Burnham did as like a little tribute to Count Binface. We know when Bin Day is and got that hand dryer moved, like intervened, did a government intervention to get the hand dryer moved.
Yeah, nationalise the pub under domain, public domain or whatever, and just fucking and reposition it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. And Michael, funnily enough, also said, There can't be much to dislike with the Greens policy in relation to the polling drop. If you have a humanity chip working, do you guys have a theory as to why you feel like, or it seems like the Greens have dropped? Is it just Burnham bounce?
It literally is. Look at the rise in the Burnham vote and the drop in the Green vote. They are exactly opposite. Virtually all of those Labour voters, new Labour voters, were old Labour voters who had gone to the Greens, but now they've gotten rid of Sir Prickface Casey. They've now got a leader in there who is at least sounding like a Labour leader.
I do think maybe the attacks before the local elections may have had an impact because they didn't do quite as well as they hoped. So people did go back to Labour. Well, they did. Look, they came second nationally in terms of the vote share, way behind Reform. Yeah. But I think they got 18% and Reform got like 25%. So like national vote share definitely was impressive.
But like, what other parties would they have gotten those votes from? They haven't put out any
Labour or the Greens?
Well, the Labour Party. So the Labour Party haven't put out any policies that particularly go towards Tories or Reform. Lib Dems, I suppose you might get one or two, but probably not that many.
Yeah, but you're also assuming that people think about policy. They don't. It's vibes. I think there's a slither, a very small slither of Reform voters going to Burnham because they just like Burnham and hate Starmer.
Maybe a tiny number, but there was a tiny number of potential voters that Keir Starmer was trying to win as well. Like, basically, people don't change from one sort of extreme to another. People are generally what they are. And the people who are social democratic or left of centre want that kind of government. And they're sort of getting that now, at least in rhetoric. And like you say, people aren't necessarily looking at white papers or legislative fucking slates and all the rest of it. They're looking at vibes. And he's giving them good vibes. So
you don't think there's a crossover between the Greens and Reform then?
I don't think there is. That Venn diagram is 2 dots at the edge of the screen. There is no crossover. No.
This is anecdotal, but I have had so many damn conversations and people who were either Greens or Reform, including my own family. They were literally like, I don't want Labour and Tories, but like Greens or Reform. So again, I know it's anecdotal, but you got to think how many conversations is that replicated across the country?
Yeah, I guess. Well, there was that one Green voter that flipped to Reform because one of your other producers did not.
We actually don't know how.
Well, we do.
They voted.
We do. Come on, we do.
Yeah,
and Hannah Spencer lost by 1 vote. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, thank God we don't live in that timeline. I was just going to say, Duck Authority also gifted £5 and said with regards to, I think this is with regards to like constitutional versus infrastructural change, any house that has Michelle Mone as a life peer is completely worthless. And the House of Lords.
It's not. No, it's not worthless. It's worth at least £200 million of our fucking money.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, probably considerably more than that with all the donations and shit that go through it. Yes, absolutely. Let's keep moving through the comments. So, Jacqueline said, I hope that people are smart enough to focus more on a PM's policy, obviously with regards to Burnham, rather than his personality. It's no good being more personable than Keith if his policies are the same. Policy direction, any hope for Burnham, or is it broadly just all...
There's some hope. Look, don't get me wrong, the fact that he's kept Shabana Mahmood as Home Secretary and put Bommy McGunface as Chancellor means that I'm not that optimistic in general, but some of his policies are pretty decent. I think his heart actually sort of is in the right place in terms of wanting a more progressive economic vision for the country, but he's not going to be transformative. But there's hope in the sense that he'll do some good things that will improve people's lives, and that might be enough to win him an election.
And I think like he's got enough tools to win an election. I think the reason why I didn't choose Ed Miliband, partly because he was probably lobbied not to do so with people inside the party, but also I think he did recognise that Ed Miliband is not a very popular guy. He lost an election, and the papers would have went mad. John Healey, in terms of if you take policy out of it, was like the safe option. especially with the media and the establishment. But the big problem is now you've got someone who just wants to fucking go to war and spend endless money on defense is now fucking chancellor. In fact, he's saying like, if I don't get the spending I want on defense, I might quit. And I'm like, sorry, but your role is chancellor, as in everything. You don't get to be like, oh, I love defense, give me this amount of money on defense.
Well,
so that's
true,
it.
but like presumably
the massive war hawk, isn't he?
Well, yeah, of course, but and presumably, and by the way, was also one of the chiefs of staff for Tony Blair for like 10 years. Which is never mentioned, but is worth mentioning. But yeah, presumably when he was offered the job by Andy Burnham, he would have asked for those assurances anyway. Because there's no way, like, having resigned as the defence secretary over this, to then accept a job of the man who's not going to do the thing he resigned for anyway, would be ridiculous. So presumably he's going to get his way on that. It's just what do they either cut, borrow, or raise taxes to cover that gap?
They're certainly not going to raise taxes. They aren't going to do that, I don't think.
No, I'm just saying those are the three options.
Exactly, but I think you agree with me. They're going to go for welfare.
Well, that's the mood music, certainly. That's what the media want. It's the path of least resistance, I suppose, from that perspective. But it's also the thing that, led Keir Starmer to come a cropper in the Commons. So we'll wait and see as to.
I suppose. I mean, he went for disability. I don't think Burnham. I mean, who knows? But I think he's gonna. Like, he's already announced pretty much that he's gonna cut welfare for defence. But he said it before he was prime minister. So I expect it's gonna be something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to raise funds some way, and of course here at Turn Left we depend on your donations, and as such you should get a say in how those donations are spent, and with that in mind, Michael did say request that Kev gets a trip to the studio, then Curtis takes him for a nice romantic meal.
If you
bring that one up.
If you think I'm going to Leeds, you've got another thing coming.
You're not even that far away.
It's not the distance. It's not the distance, no.
Well, that answers the fucking question, doesn't it, Michael?
Yeah.
Despite the fact the studio's at my house, he's actively said, I don't want to go around your house.
Well, your house,
rude.
Your house is in a sea of shit. So no, I won't be going there. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Leeds is better than Birmingham. I'm saying.
Well, no, we've cleared up the piles of rubbish now, so it's fine. Actually, sure.
Well, there should have been that in the first place.
Wait, sorry. Hang on. Who's the MP where you are, Kevin? Roughly.
My MP is Al Carnes.
Al Carnes. Well,
who?
I'd argue that you haven't cleared up all the shit that's on the streets.
No, there's still, yeah. Like, I didn't say we cleared up all the shit. I said all the rubbish. So.
My point stands.
Yeah.
Anyway, Antifa Vegan Boy said, would they eat a urinal cake since it's called a cake, as Kevin brought up? Absolutely. Another classic of mine is the belief that fish have fingers, because fish fingers.
The brilliant one, a titmouse is both a tit and a mouse, not a bird. So.
Yes.
I can see that would confuse a lot of people, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we'll get into the whole Nazi thing. As you probably guessed, I've been waiting to try and talk about this.
Have.
Oh yeah.
Are you a white man? Because they do love talking about Nazis a lot. Yeah.
I am a white guy in my 20s who did World War II history in university and throughout my high school.
I used to be in my 20s as well.
I've got to say it for as long as I can, because I can only say it for a few more years.
Wait, you're not? I thought you've not reached 30 yet.
No, I haven't reached 30 yet.
Oh, that's so depressing, because next year I reach 40.
Oh, yeah, I've got a few more years for that one.
Yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely. In fact, my bookshelf, if you were to look at it, is not one that immediate red flags. People have told me like it would be immediate red flags. It's just like there's a row of just Hitler books. But anyway,
but anyway,
it's like that scene from Father Ted where he's got all that Nazi memorabilia, and they all walk in and he goes, "I can explain."
Yeah, well, it's what I have to do whenever.
The problem is with Father Ted though, that was foreshadowing Graham Linehan. So
well, presumably that's where the props came from. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, true. They left him in the studio one day, read all those books, and that's where his current social views come from. Anyway,
well, I did my analogy of Elon Musk writing a book called "Divorced Sad Twat." I was going to go with what do you call it? Presumably, he thinks that J.K. Rowling is actually Harry Potter. But yeah, or J.R.R. Tolkien is actually a Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, he's an
Oh my
idiot.
God.
Anyway, Hitler.
Yes. Hitler. Sorry, yeah. So of course Kevin did a great job of breaking down that tweet, and I don't have a whole lot to add to that because you did amazing. There's stuff I've had to cross out because you just like you got it nailed. I was writing it down and I was like, "Fuck!" He mentioned that. I thought that the rule by laws thing was particularly fucking weird. The rule by laws thing is like,
that's bad.
Yeah, it's what was that suddenly a bad thing? What? But it is worth mentioning as well that the way that Hitler ruled was, as you said, by decree. And I'll never forget my history lecturer at uni basically saying the way that Hitler did business was he had the life of a student. He would wake up sort of like between 10 and 2 o'clock and then go into his study, start watching films, and then the people around him who, like secretaries who became very, very powerful because they controlled the access to the sovereignty, would, let people in, and those people would then get Hitler's like nod on policy, and that policy would just become law. Such an insane way of ruling.
Yeah, he literally did. He lived like degenerate hours. That's literally why on D-Day, the German tanks didn't roll until the evening because they literally were too scared to wake him up to get his permission to use their tanks. And by which time a bridgehead had been built because they literally didn't want to wake him up, and he didn't wake up till like 2 in the afternoon.
It's wild stuff.
Mad shit.
Yes. There was another thing I should say about gun control, because gun control was brought up. Kevin, you might remember Three Arrows. I haven't watched any of Three Arrows videos in a while. German YouTuber.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah,
really good, really good. And they actually have a video on gun control. But basically, one of the theses that they put forward is, at what point would Jewish people or the resistance having access to guns have helped when the Nazis had the structural control that they had? And basically, it's an argument of like, yeah, that didn't really help. Also, there was gun control, but not really for the average German. It was mostly for the people he was targeting, mostly for Jewish people.
Well, I've had this point with gun people in America as well. Like you and Billy Bob and your 12 mates in the woods with your small arms. The US government wouldn't have to meet you on the field. They can drone strike you until the only thing that remains is the fucking metal caps in your teeth. You'd be disintegrated.
I mean, even them just going up against ice.
Yeah, like
because they're all geared up, right? Yeah. But I think there's a slight irony here, which is that gun control is a left-wing thing. Some would argue on more of the radical left, which I find myself in, would say it's more of a liberal policy, and actually, revolutionaries and socialists having guns is, again, I don't particularly agree with that. But I've heard from people on the left who say, no, actually, like gun control is more of a lib thing.
Yeah, there's like the Socialist Rifle Association exists. There are people that are like that. The Black Panthers, of course, were big advocates of arming and things like that. But I think it's just gotten to the point now where technology has so overcome your ability to do armed resistance in quite that way. Essentially, in order to do a revolution, you just would have to win over the army and police. I don't think you could realistically stand up against them in the way that maybe you could in 1917 or 1891 or whatever,
Yeah, exactly. It's like a
1791, not 18.
Yes,
a century out.
But yeah, I'd 100% agree, of course. And I did want to add as well on the sort of like the idea that, oh well, they they collectivized of whatever that means the economy and did a tightly controlled elements of the economy. That's often so often I think misunderstood, because actually it's the Wehrwirtschaft. The idea was that actually there should be not a penny spent. Hitler's exact words: "Not a penny should be spent without consideration to how it funds rearmament." One of my favorite examples of this is the Autobahn. The German motorway was originally supposed to be built in a tunnel to shield it from air raids over the top. Basically, it was just just things that would help with the military. And if your argument is, well, a government is socialist when they have an economy that is geared towards the military, well, that makes the United States of America the most socialist economy
socialist ever
to have
in the
ever
history of the
existed in the history of the world. It's just an insane.
But these people, Ben, I'm telling you, these people would probably claim that America's socialist.
Yeah,
Well,
Communist. I mean, Obama, right? Obama's a communist.
Well, I love the libertarian. And by the way, when I say libertarian, I don't mean the original anti-state.
Yeah, the shit new libertarian.
Yeah, the ridiculous Chicago boy fucking dickheads. Anyway, they will claim that capitalism is the best system because it's raised loads of people out of poverty, right? But that technically no society in history has ever actually been capitalist. At the same time, with the same arguments, they're just idiots. Their system, their mindset doesn't match up with reality.
I really do.
So they just have to
fucking hate.
bend and contort it.
I hate how modern libertarians have really bastardized the original stuff. Because I consider my ideology is probably libertarian socialist. But anytime you say libertarian, I fucking like, because all I can think of is fucking the IEA.
Yeah. I like that meme that's been
And
going
lose
around.
lose cells. Just listen to it.
That meme that's going around of the libertarians, and it's tyranny.gov.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah,
and then it's tyranny.com, and I'm going, ooh, I could get behind that.
Yeah, because we love authoritarianism. We love control, but we just want it to be done by McDonald's, not the government.
It's such an old meme now, but it's so still funny that when Gary Johnson was running to become the Libertarian candidate for president, and that debate they had with the different candidates, and they literally asked, should there be a driver's license?
Yeah, I saw that.
And they were all like, and Gary Johnson said, well, I think you should have some, competence and experience. And they were like, no, definitely not. What next? A license for your own fucking toaster? Well, and you just think
I love all the candidates were like disavowing it, like because they're in front of a libertarian audience, weren't they? Like, oh, hell no, hell no.
Absolutely ridiculous. These people are not serious. They're just not.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Yeah, something I wanted to add to the whole like Hitler point. Is because Kevin mentioned Straserites, the sort of early, not really left wing, but they had some more like left wing leaning policies.
Well, they believe like land, giving out land to peasants and things like that, breaking up the Junker estates. There were some economically pretty out there things for the time.
Yeah. No, I just view it a bit more as like the BNP saying we want to fund the NHS. It's like, yeah, that could be seen as left wing.
They were still like racist scum. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And I always bring this up, so forgive me. But in the book by Noakes and Pridham, Nazism 1919 to 1945, volume 2, on page 66, if anyone wants to look it up, there's a really interesting quote. I know, right?
How did you memorize that?
There's a really interesting quote by from a conversation between Hitler and Otto Strasser, who was Gregor Strasser's brother, and the Strasser brothers like famously shared. That's where the word Strasserism comes from. And they were arguing about ideology. There's a note from one of Otto Strasser's diaries about a conversation he was having with Hitler in 1930, where Hitler says, quote, "That word socialism is in trouble. I have never said all enterprises should be socialized. On the contrary, I maintain that we might socialize enterprises prejudicial to the interests of the nation, i.e., that would be used in war. Unless they were so guilty, I should consider it a crime to destroy essential elements in our economic life." And this is where it gets really interesting for me. "There is no reason for granting the workers a share in the profits of enterprises that employ them, and more particularly for giving them the right to be consulted." So imagine fucking Corbyn, Zach Polanski, Bernie Sanders turning around and going, or Zura Mamdani turning around and going, "Oh no, actually, you don't have the right to be consulted by your employer, or form a union, and you shouldn't get any share in the profits of the company."
Well, and of course the fact that all trade unions were banned except the trade union, which was then the negotiators on behalf of that union were appointed by the government.
Exactly. It's just completely pointless.
Not the most socialist policy I can think of.
I just had to flash up this comment. What is Aleppo? Gary Johnson was asked on TV.
Well, I still think in his head he was thinking the word "a" was its own word, and he was thinking, "What does lepo mean? What is a lepo? I don't know. I don't know what that is."
I feel like if you're a candidate for president, you should probably know.
Well, that's the
what a
thing.
lepo is.
Libertarians don't know about the Syrian civil war, but they will give you every fucking. They could spend hours talking about weed. Fucking days talking about how we should get rid of the Department of Education. They're idiots. They're idiots.
Absolutely. When you said the German Union, Kev, sorry, historian nerd point as usual. Do you mean the DAF, the Deutsche Arbeiterfrontier?
No, it was called something different, and I can't remember what off the top of my head.
Okay, it's just there was a lot of stuff where it was like, this is here to protect you, but actually it's part of the Strength Through Joy program, and the Strength Through Joy program means that you should do unpaid work for your employer, and if you refuse, your employer can send you to a gulag. I can't remember what gulag it was, but there was a specific one where workers who disobeyed their employers would be sent, and it's like, not gulag, what do I mean, concentration camp. Yeah.
Well, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I was just saying.
We were splitting hairs on the definitions there.
True.
But I especially love the fact that the Volkswagen was funded, and it was essentially a mass stealing from workers thing, because they had to pay up front for their Volkswagen, and you'd get it when it was built. Not a single one was ever delivered, ever.
But also, fucking government doing things isn't left-wing social.
Well, yeah, it's literally so even if ridiculous when they say like, exactly. Oh, socialism is when the government does stuff. Well, every fucking government ever has been socialist then.
Exactly.
So shut the fuck up. You can't praise capitalism because it's never happened.
Yep. Yeah, and that is it though. Their whole argument boils down to socialism is when the government does stuff. Oh, it's really fucking frustrating. Anyway, we better get on with the comments because we have.
Okay. Best one ever. Aleppo is a lesbian hippo.
God's sake.
Gary Johnson going, look at his head, just a hippo just jumping up and down. What is Aleppo?
He's just imagining two hippos scissoring.
Okay,
I would have thought it'd be gutting, public education, but maybe it's that.
So Emma said, I just can't see anything to be upset about here. Some people are such pointless outrage farmers, and of course this is in relation to the last story. Julia Hartley Brewer and the subscription rules, basically saying that you can't lock people into subscriptions with fees, and you have to what was the other one? It was you have to.
You can't advertise. You can't advertise false prices.
Yeah,
and then to give people the indication that you're getting better value. Than
it's like when you see something like a recommended retail price and it's really expensive, and then they sell it lower. So yeah, but the market rate is what you sold it at. Like the market rate isn't the recommended retail price, and then you've just lowered it.
And not just that, but it's an outright lie. Because if they've previously sold it at that price, I don't mind them telling you that it's been reduced. But they just make shit up. They say, "Oh, we sold it for 10, but now it's 6." So you think you're getting a 40% off? They never sold it at 10.
But Emma is right, because it's like, fucking hell though. Like these are fine things. Like, how can you moan about that? And do you know what I really hate? Yeah, I really hate when people just politicize everything. Now, obviously everything is politicized, but I mean party politics, right? It's like, oh, we've got to moan because I don't like that party. Well, guess what? Like, you're watching a socialist media channel which will probably never vote Labour ever again, because I cannot forgive them the genocide, okay? And yet I'm sat here praising Andy Burnham because I'm not a fucking bipartisan hack. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to go fucking support him now, but I can be like, well, that was good. That was done well. That makes sense. Because, honestly, you watch most right-wing shows, you fucking switch on GB News. They cannot do that. They're incapable of doing that. They're just like, we hate Labour, so we're just going to shit on them regardless. And Julie Hartley Brewer's the same. If Reform came out with that, oh my fucking God, they'd be like, this is the best thing ever.
That's a great point in chat.
And I have no fucking respect for that kind of politics.
So DFS are fucked. Yeah. The rolling, never-ending sale comes to an end.
They said the end of the world would happen before the end of the Yeah, best sale. And Andy Burnham has just come and said, "Oh my fucking beer!"
Incredible.
Thought not DFS. Breaking. Andy Burnham sees the end of DFS. God, that's funny.
Jacqueline said Haley Brewer is living for the day when workhouses and gruel are reintroduced. Absolutely.
Well, conservatives are. That conservatives were never ever happier than the Victorian age, where they could just be openly vindictive and cruel to the poorest in society. That they purposely designed a system to ensure would always be poor.
Yes. But then Hartley Brewer will complain that their conditions are too good.
Well, they
you have a dirty, mouldy roof over your head.
They'll say, "Oh, this charity's making these people weak."
Yes,
they literally would say things like this. We shouldn't feed them as much. Yeah, they should
pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, literally, they would say shit like that. Like these Christian do-gooders feeding and clothing these people.
Yeah. There was a series of cartoons years ago on Facebook where people were taking images of Jesus doing like doing like various acts of charity,
communism.
And it was like Tory Jesus, so they'd put a speech bubble next to it, going like, "No, take those gifts away from the poor. They'll only spend them on HD TVs. They'll spend them on PS5s. You can't give it to them." Like, or it would be Jesus like walking through the streets, and he'd come across like a homeless man on the floor, and it would be like kick. Your fitness for work assessment is in 10 minutes.
If it was Gary Johnson Jesus, it would be, "What is a leper?"
What is a leper? Oh my god!
Oh, look how proud of you of that one. Oh, bless
come on, lad. Honestly, I can die happy now. It's all good. It's all good.
That was a good one, I got to say.
Thank you.
And Leo said this is an even tinkering around the edges of the cost of living crisis.
I agree. I completely agree.
We agree. I think we agree on that. However, there is one thing that I'd like to add that I think really needs to be said, and the very fact that Julia Hartley Brewer, her only criticism that she has been able to level at Andy Burnham with this policy is tinkering around the edges, is a total cultural victory for Zach Polanski. Because Zach Polanski made Burnham possible. Like, without the pressure from the Greens and from Zach Polanski, without Keir Starmer crashing in the polls to the most unpopular prime minister in history, because of what Zach Polanski and the Greens did, there would be no Burnham. But more importantly, Julia Hartley Brewer is now having to contend with these policies and not, he hasn't cut, welfare for the disabled by quite as much as we'd like. It changes the conversation.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's a really good point, because what Brewer's done, and maybe she's done it unintentionally, but she has said this isn't going to do enough to tackle the cost of living crisis. Instead of her saying, why is he doing this, insert right-wing woke culture thing, trans people, whatever, she has said this won't do enough to address the cost of living crisis, which is like, yes, I agree, that's the left-wing argument. Welcome, comrade Brewer. And like, that is a great point in which this is how we can really reframe the debate, right? That's what you want, is to get right-wingers saying, arguing on the terrain that we want to talk about, which is cost of living, economic policy.
It's Comrade Hartley Brewer, please.
Comrade Hartley Brewer. Apologise. Comrade Heartless Sewer.
True.
Vimster said, I'm also sick of Yusuf's attempt at Churchillian delivery.
Oh, he's so bad at it, isn't he? But he doesn't have any source, though.
No, he's literally the man with the least aura imaginable.
It's so bad. I mean, do you know when he put on his aviators and stands on the beach, he looks like the biggest prick going.
Honestly, he looks like a guy who's got those aviators on because he's perving.
Yeah, he's got meta aviators on.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Yeah.
Platform Radio said, always remember the first libertarian was a socialist. Absolutely. Yep. And also gave a list of names, I assume.
Well, I wouldn't. Nestor Makhno is. I would look into his use of slave labour in terms of the railways and stuff. But I know what you're talking about. Bonaventura Durruti, I would literally dig up his corpse and suck his dead dick.
I'm so glad this is so at the end of the show. Which is just Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, so you don't have to edit it out of the segment. Yeah.
So, and just a couple of comments to finish off with. A couple of Burks said, "Thinking is such a lefty move. Typical."
Yeah, no.
A couple of Burks, of course, run their own channel.
Yeah, everyone go and follow a couple of Burks. Fucking awesome.
Yes, and also importantly, follow Kevin Logan.
And follow Turn Left.
Yes, this is very important. And Michael, on that note, said, also can't wait for the Turn Left, a couple of Burks crossover. Curtis was actually the one who starred that comment. I didn't star it, so...
Yes, so, yeah, because, planning things.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you should get one of them on anyway. I don't know if they would both do it, but... Yeah,
we can have one or both. Anyway, right, I will hand back to you guys because we have massively overrun as usual, but it's been a fantastic show, and thank you very much to you two. You have been amazing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ben. Fantastic comments tonight. Really enjoyed it. And of course, want to thank everyone who tuned in. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on again tonight. Again, it's been too long, but hopefully we're going to be ramping up our shows again, so it won't be too long again.
What is a leper?
What is a leper?
What is a leper?
You need to record that and make it your sounds, put it in your soundboard because you're so proud of that.
I am ludicrously proud of that. Yeah.
Which is funny because after this, I'm going to eat my dinner and completely forget all about that comment you made. But
well, no,
sure
I'll remind you. I'll remind you. Yeah.
Please don't. Pleasure though.
Thanks.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. It's really important. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all those who commented and gave us a donation. We really appreciate that because, as you know, we are all volunteers. Even though I think we've made this place, the studio, look pretty damn professional, we don't make any money. So if you want us to grow, then please go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/supports. There's a link to our Patreon where you can sign up monthly for as little as £3 per month. Or go on our other link, which is there, and you can give a one-time donation. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. Remember to like the stream, subscribe to us if you haven't, hit the notification bell. That's really important. We usually go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:30 p.m. Again, I don't know if we're back on quite that schedule. We'll keep you updated. But again, thank you so much to everyone who joined in. You've been watching Normal Island Live. I'll see you next time.